Islam, chapter 25 from the Moorish Holy Quran. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother has given ye suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brother, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother's in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which I draw my strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise, walking in Jerusalem, just like John, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretches forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who set it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give honor to the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, talking about none other than our holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I'd like to give honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali because it was he who reached down into the watery grave of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms, and set you and me back upright on my feet again. I'd like to give honor to all of those and honor to all of you that have and will aid and assist us in this, our divine and gigantic mission, the uplifting of fallen humanity. I'd like to give a special honor to effort because so many of us don't even try. At this time, I'd like to read from the Moorish Holy Quran, the book of the seven seals that's talked about in Revelations, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. At this time, I'd like to read from chapter 25. And chapter 25 is read on this wise. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother has given ye suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Thus, we just had a reading of the book of the seven seals, divinely prepared by our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. I'd like to talk a little bit about the chapter that I just read, about ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care. But it also say, if thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. It say, let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. So it's always an honor, a pleasure, moreover a duty, to be able to come to our Portland listening audience to talk to you about the last prophet in these days and time, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Now, my subject matter today is going to be talking a little bit about the election. We have election coming up in a couple of days, and the last couple of days we've been having a lot of people talking about this election. So what I want to do first, I want to read something that Noble Drew Ali told us about the election. And after I read what Noble Drew Ali told us about the election, I'd like to expound on it. And the reason why I want to expound on it, because Brother JP, who was just here on the show, and I was talking to his sister and his niece, and we was talking about the election, talking to JP about the election. And I asked them, were they in the process of voting? And everybody said, yes, they are in the process of voting. So this is very important that I talk about that this evening. I want to talk about it because there's a few of us that's voting, and there's a whole lot of us that's not going to vote. And a lot of us that's not going to vote is because we are diametrically opposed to the concepts of the European. So what I want to do right now is read from Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to read something that Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the Moorish Americans. And I'm going to get into this and we're going to have a good time. I'm going to be reading from Friday, February the 19th, 1929. And it reads on this wise. Anytime a man or a woman fails or refuses to cast a sacred ballot at the polls, they separate themselves from the rights of an American citizen. For surely this is the one connection media for a citizen to his nation. They become no more than belated beasts of burden. There are reasons why certain classes who are more or less independent take no place in politics, since they say they get nothing out of such in the way of material gain. This is no less than a political slave, since they refuse to voice their sentiments. And the pose and form of politics, slavery, which is probably more prevalent among the less independent classes, of that of being forced into one majority. At this time, I want to talk about this a little bit because we're talking about us going to the polls and being able to vote. I'm going to start out by saying I was listening to the news the other day, and there's a lot of young brothers and sisters that was incarcerated, and they're home now, and they have went to the polls to vote, and they got permission to vote at the polls. Now, Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD. And shortly thereafter, Noble Drew Ali had all of the Moorish American Muslims to vote. And he gave them the brother or sister that is running for office that he asked us to vote for. Now, it's kind of ironic that Noble Drew Ali was asking us to vote for a particular candidate. And when we go back in mind, we know that it was in the early 60s. It was the early 60s that our people were able to vote. This don't have anything to do with the Moorish America. We're going to talk about that because we've been voting since 1913. And the reason why those who call themselves Negro, colored, and black wasn't able to vote is because they don't have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. You don't have a nationality. You call yourself Negro, you call yourself colored, call yourself black. Now, I had mentioned earlier about the two Kennedy brothers. One of them got killed, and Martin Luther King. And if you check the record, when I was coming up in my youth, my mother, all of the girls in the church, and everybody was selling pictures. And the three people that was on the picture was the Kennedys and Martin Luther King. And this was during the time that we was asked to go to the polls to vote, because Noble Drew Ali told us in 1913 that we were citizens of this government. He said the citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. And those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and is subject to all inferior named abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. Now, my mother, she voted, and I went with her. I was a child, young child. I went down to the poll of the school over in Northeast Washington. She went and she cast her ballot to the polls, and she was able to vote. And she was so happy because this was the first time that those of African descent was able to vote. But my mother let us know that because of the concepts and ideology we was able to vote. Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that a long time ago. He told the Moors that we was able to vote in 1913. We was able to vote because we were citizens. And only citizens was able to vote in this government. But now, I'm going to get into something that he taught us, because he was talking about voting. And I remember there was an organization of those who call themselves black. They was telling our people that it's against the law for you to go and vote and cast the ballot to the poll, even though we can't do it, as he said. He said we will never do that because our people can't vote. But Noble Drew Ali came and told us that we were citizens of this government, and we voted for some brothers and sisters and put them in the office. This was before 1930. Noble Drew Ali passed form before 1930. But there's a lot of brothers and there's a lot of sisters that's part of certain organizations that they call black. They was not able to vote because they was not citizens of this government. And the only citizens in this government does not function under a granted privilege. They can't vote. And Noble Drew Ali came and told us who to vote for, and when he did that, the people was able for him to rise to another level of consciousness because we had representatives that represented us. So now, let me share this. I was looking at the news, and when I was looking at the news, it was talking about the Vanport flood here in Portland. And when it was talking about the Vanport flood, it was talking about those of African descent, how we had to be in the house before sundown. And before sundown, if we wasn't in the house, we might get killed. But Noble Drew Ali came and told us that that didn't even apply to those who called themselves Moorish Americans, because Moorish Americans had a voice. Negro, colored, and black have no voice. And the reason why you don't have a voice, because you don't have a nationality. Nationality is what hooks you back up with the family of nations. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now we're talking about citizenship. We're talking about going to the polls, voting, casting our free national ballot to the poll. Now, let me get on the same subject matter and talk about something else. Because we've seen that if you call yourself Negro, colored, and black, you can't vote. If you say that you are a black man, let's use that right now. If you say you're a black man, then you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. You have no rights that a government is bound to respect. So Noble Drew Ali gave us this literature in 1928, 1927, 1926, telling us to go to the polls and cast a free national ballot to the polls, as has been the existing conditions for many generations. So now we voted. We put our ballots in, we cast our ballots to the polls, and we're doing it under existing conditions that has been the condition for many different generations. So now we're going to the polls. We could do that. Like I say, there's a lot of these black organizations, and your leaders tell you that we ain't citizens, we don't have no respect for this government, etc. But he taught us that we are citizens of this government, and we have a right to cast our ballot to the polls as every other citizen do. So in the Moorish Zion Temple, we cast our ballot to the poll. There's brothers and there's sisters that's in political science, that's running for office. And we are able, see, this is something new now. See, they have something new, and it's saying that you can go to the polls and you can cast your ballot to the polls, but it's a granted privilege. You know, you have a granted privilege because the government is giving this to you, but you're not a citizen. You're doing that from perspective of a granted privilege. Now, like I say, in 1913, when Noble Drew Ali came on the scene and brought us back our flags. See, we have two flags. We have the flag of our origin, and we have the flag of our birth. And a lot of us who is diametrically opposed to what Allah sent Noble Drew Ali to bring us don't want to vote. You say you won't want to vote because you're not a citizen. Well, let me explain this to you. Everybody have a right to vote. All you have to do is proclaim your nationality. And you have to proclaim your divine creed. I was in a meeting this morning with some brothers, and we was talking about the election. And we was talking about going to the polls and casting a free national ballot. But the brothers say, and the sisters say, that they honor the American flag. I mean, they honor the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. And these 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But you have a lot of those that's in the Moorish Science Temple say that they honor Noble Drew Ali, and they honor the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center, but they do not honor the American flag. Now, every government that you see flies two flags. Noble Drew Ali, when he came, he bought the Moorish Americans two flags. Now, when you find someone say they want to honor the Moorish flag, but they don't want to honor the American flag, then what you need to do is understand that you're not a citizen of this government. You have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. Because Noble Drew Ali say we have two flags, both national and international, conjoining, making us Moorish American. Why are we Moorish American? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. And who are these Moroccans? They are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and the southwestern shores of Africa. So we are at war. We're at war with a people who don't want to honor the creed and principles of their forefathers, but yet they are straying after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. So Noble Drew Ali came. He brought us our nationality, told us that we was a part and parcel of this government. told us that we weren't Negro, colored, black, or Ethiopian because these names was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. He said, but this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Now the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. I'm looking at the news, and I'm seeing on the news where they have a place called Newburgh. And in Newburgh, they had the other day that a guy, because of a sticker, a European sticker, where you had Europeans that was doing things that that you do when you call yourself someone other than Asiatic. See, the whole world once was called Asia. The whole world was called Asia. Now, there's two formulations in this human family. And this formulation in this human family is Asiatic and European. And we're sure not European. And we're not European because we're who our forefathers were. There's no such thing. Now, we was looking at this lesson today when we were talking about those who's voting. And when we look at that, we look at Noble Jew Ali and the lessons that he brought to us, because he told us that we were Negro, colored, and black. And he went back again to tell us these names were given to slaves by slaveholders. So now we're looking at the Vanport flood again. And we're looking at the European nations. When the European nations told us that we could not vote, we had no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. Now, if he told us that we have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect, and Noble Jew Ali came with the antidote to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. But now I'm flying two flags. We have an American flag and we have a Moorish flag. Both of these flags are the flags that was given to us by our forefathers, because we are who our forefathers were. So now we have the Moorish flag. And I'd like to reiterate that we was in this meeting yesterday, and you had a lot of brothers and a lot of sisters that was in the meeting. They gave me a headache. And they say in this meeting, they will not vote. They say they will not vote. They say because a black man do not have any rights that a citizen is bound to respect. But I'm in the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'm not a black man, and I have rights that a citizen is bound to respect, because nationality is the order of the day. We are today what our forefathers were yesterday. So now Noble Jew Ali brought us a literature. And he brought us a literature, and in his literature, he's talking about the Moorish Americans on this side of Chicago and on that side of Chicago. All over the country, we have been voting to put people in office to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. And what is this wrath? The wrath is living according to hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that arms, which are the attributes of Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. So now we're here, proclaim our nationality. The Grand SHEIK been having us voting, because I've been in the Moorish Science Temple 50 years. And we have a Grand SHEIK has been having the Moorish American Muslims to vote since that time. And the ones that had us voting then was those that was with the prophet. They was around with the prophet. They cast the ballot to the poll. In Baltimore, Maryland, the Moorish American went to the poll and voted and cast their ballot. And they voted for a particular brother or sister. And when they voted for that particular brother or sister, they got the job and they was in office. And it's hard to look at because can't too many people talk to you and me about casting to the polls and gonna get some results. But as I said, when the Kennedy brothers, because one of them got killed, when the Kennedy brothers was in the world teaching and trying to get the Asiatics to vote, the same thing with Martin Luther King, we've been doing that for a long time. But I remember when we began to talk about the Resurrection City. And Resurrection City was a group of people, a group of Asiatics that came to Washington, D.C. They came to Washington, D.C. for places all over the country. And they had a place called Resurrection City. And this Resurrection City remind me of Portland, Oregon. It reminds me of Portland, Oregon because everywhere you go in Portland, Oregon, what do you see? You see people on the street with nowhere to go, living out of tents. And this is the same thing that transpired with the Resurrection City down there in Washington, D.C. You had brothers and sisters from all over the country came to Resurrection City to try to get some help from the government, and after a period of time, they got that help. A lot of them never went back to Alabama. A lot of them never went back to Mississippi. A lot of them never went back to Louisiana. A lot of them stayed right there and got the help that they needed because they was citizens. See, we are all citizens. We are all citizens in this government. And the government know that. They know that, but they say that we have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. So now we are talking about the Resurrection City. I remember about 15 years ago when I was working with a lot of different brothers and sisters in different organizations, and we was talking about having the people to vote. And we got that legally established. But we need to understand that those that we got all of this legally established, you're functioning under a granted privilege. And what is a granted privilege? A granted privilege is something that, boss, can we do this? Boss, can we do that? Boss, can we go to the polls? Or boss, can you help me get a job? But we can't take these things to a poll because in truth, if you don't proclaim your nationality, you're getting all these things under a granted privilege. A privilege that will let us in the door. But it's not citizenship, it's only a granted privilege. So when Noble Drew Ali came on the scene in 1913 and told us to proclaim our nationality, that we were Negro, colored, and black, this is something that the people have yet to look at and understand. And let me explain something to you. When we talk about human rights and when we talk about civil rights, see, human rights and civil rights are not the same. When you begin to talk about civil rights, you're talking about a non-political office. You're talking about a granted privilege. You're talking about the government giving us these rituals that we could use to keep us from really going to the poll and casting a free national ballot to the poll as has been the existing condition for many generations. This is why it's important that when we begin to talk about nationality, you cannot go to the polls without flying two flags. Every people on this top side planet mud flies two flags. One of them is the flag of your origin, and the other is the flag of your birth. What is your origin, and what is your birth? And why are you Moorish Americans? We are Moorish Americans again because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. And these Moroccans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So now, Noble Drew Ali made it clear. He told all of us that's Moorish American Muslims that there are two flags that we have to fly. We can't fly one flag. We have to fly two flags because one of them is the flag of our origin and the other is the flag of our birth. So we are Moorish Americans. We are Moorish Americans like you have Irish Americans, you have Chinese Americans, you have Mexican Americans, and it took me back to I'm looking at this paperwork of the Ku Klux Klan. And the Ku Klux Klan was those that made us be in the house by 6 o'clock. But you have to understand that the Ku Klux Klan are those that Queen Isabella and Ferdinand. Well, let's talk about Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth did not give those Europeans of European descent the blessings that they supposed to have received because they was in disagreement with the law that Elizabeth laid down. That's going back of Isabella Ferdinand when the Queen Isabella, because we have to talk about that because she just passed. Queen Elizabeth, she just passed. And this queen, we want to look at it again because she is talking about that when you begin to talk about Jesus or what are we talking about? When you begin to look at Queen Isabella and when you begin to look at Queen Ferdinand too, they are telling us that we as a people, descendants from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the family of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion. So what we're talking about, the pale-skinned nations of Europe, what are we talking about? When we talking about Queen Isabella, what are we talking about? We said Morocco got its independence March 2nd, 1956 from under the French rule. But before they got their independence, they was in disagreement with the Queen because the Queen wanted them to do certain things and they wouldn't do it. But Noble Drew Ali came. Noble Drew Ali came. Noble Drew Ali was sent by the great God Allah. This is why in 1928, when Noble Drew Ali went to the East and had this meeting, the meeting that he had, it was talking about nationality. It wasn't talking about religion. It was not talking about divine creed. We know what our nationality is, and we know who our forefathers were. But when we begin to talk about the Queen, and she's saying that her and her people are who Jesus, his mother, his father, his grandparents claim to be. But they say that we are thus. We are those that is, what they say, they are the people, they are when you begin to talk about religion, and you're talking about those who's in charge, and those who out front, Drew Ali tells all of us that, but he gives it to us from a different perspective. And the perspective that he's giving us to us, telling us to be who our forefathers were. Because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. Now you can say anything that you want. You can say Queen Isabella, and you can call her what you want. But when you begin to talk about the Last Supper was those that was living according to the word of God. You can't take my nationality, nor can you take my divine creed. But you can say that you are everything that we are not. Now, let's look at this book here. We have Queen Elizabeth. And we have a brother by the name of Ferdinand. See? Then we have Queen Elizabeth. We have a lot of history that Noble Drew Ali gave us that the Europeans don't even talk about. And the reason why they don't talk about it is because it don't apply to them. When you begin to talk about the Last Supper, when you begin to talk about the women and the man, look at Queen, she just passed. They say that she is this family. What, the royal family? The royal family is, you stole my birthright. You took my Jesus. You buried my Jesus in Vatican Square. You took on his name. And now you got me looking like I'm somebody other than who I am, because I'm what my forefathers were. So Noble Drew Ali came. He told us that nationality was the order of the day. He told us that we were Negro, colored, and black. He told us that we are here in America. We are here in America, and America is the great melting pot. And this great melting pot had many different nationalities. What is your nationality? I'm Moorish American. I'm Moorish American because I am a descendant of Moroccans. Now, who are these Moroccans? These Moroccans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now, who are these Moabites? They are the biblical sons and daughters of Ham, one of the three sons of Noah, according to the biblical scriptures. And this is why we are Hamitic by decent nature, by the way of Lot. So now we're dealing with the election coming up. We're dealing with who you're going to vote for. We're dealing with citizenship. And these are things that are taught in the Moorish Science Temple of America. We even have to sit down and explain to you why we are voting for who we are voting for. See, because a lot of us have no idea about voting rights. See, and anyone that refused to cast a ballot to the polls is only because of the way that you have been taught. You have been taught this way. Because you got to be who your forefathers were. We're talking about reparation. Because when you're talking about casting a ballot to the polls, then you have to be talking about reparation. No one can talk about reparation if you don't have a nationality. If you don't have a nationality, your vote really don't count. They're giving you something calling a granted privilege. They let you do this. They let you do that. But it's under a granted privilege. But the Moorish Science Temple of America, we don't vote under the granted privilege because we have rights that a citizen is bound to respect. We know that Anna was Murray's mother. We know that Anna had a husband named Jacqueline, and Ruth had a husband named Boaz. And these are the two pillars that they are talking about when they are talking about those that was in charge of the spirit world. And Noble Drew Ali came because he's in charge of the spirit world. And he brought us two flags. He brought us a red flag, and this red flag is the red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. And the 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So we got a red flag, and we have a white flag over there, the American flag. And this is the one that protects us in our infancy and protected us in our ignorance. So here in the Moorish Science Temple of America, everybody needs to get out to the polls. You need to get out to the polls and vote for who you think that's conducive enough for our growth and our development for you to give them your vote so we have someone up there that's working for us. Now, I agree with the brother saying that all you who call yourself black and all you call yourself colored, And all you have yourself called Negro, you don't want to go vote because you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. There's a lot of rights that a citizen is bound to respect, but the government is getting you not to vote, because if you vote, then you don't have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. So now we're looking at citizenship. Going to the polls, casting a ballot to the polls under this free national constitution to set aside for all free national beings. See, because we are who our forefathers were. A lot of us don't understand that. I know some people that was born in Africa and they live in America now. And some of them from Ghana, some of them from Kenya, some of them from Nigeria. But when they're here in the United States of America, they don't say that they are Nigerians or they're from the Nigerian Constitution. They say that they are black. And when you say that you are black, what you are saying that you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. What are you saying? You are separating yourself from the constitutional foe. You are saying that things have never done you any good, but have always harmed you, is what you learned in the Moorish Science Temple of America. But Noble Drew Ali came. He came with two flags. He told the Moorish Americans that you are not a Moroccan American. And you have most of the people, that some of them that I was in the meeting with last night, they say that they are not citizens of this government. They say that they honor the Moorish flag, but they don't honor the American flag. But this is not what Noble Drew Ali said. He said, we are part and parcel of this said government. Let me reiterate that. Noble Drew Ali say, we are part and partial of this said government. He said, we are not Negroes. He said, because Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. He said, we are not colored. He said, because colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. And we are not black, because black, according to science, means death, and black in science means justice. So now it's the election time. We're telling everybody to go to the polls and cast your ballot. But really, when you go to the polls and put Odyssey up there or one of those other Asiatics, you're doing this under a granted privilege. We have a privilege that was given to us by the government to cast our ballot to the poll, as has been the existing condition for many generations. As I said earlier, I was young. I was in school. And my mother, when we first started voting, I went with her over at one of the junior high schools over in Northeast Washington, D.C., and she applied the granted privilege. She applied the granted privilege because she registered to vote. And when she voted under a granted privilege. And her voice was heard. But when they did that, they already knew that those of African descent were descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. So now we're talking about the royal family. Who is the royal family? The royal family is Mary, Elizabeth, Jesus, and all of those of African descent. Now, a lot of us don't want to honor Jesus. We say there ain't no such thing as Jesus. But Jesus and I are one. Jesus and my forefathers are one. Jesus and my foremothers are one. And the books tell us that that man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So what is your nationality? Let's say this again, because a lot of us don't have a nationality. We have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect. And if you call yourself Negro, if you call yourself colored, if you call yourself black, you're separating yourself from the human family, because they were one race. Let me reiterate that. And when we say there's not but one race, and this one race is the human race, guess what? There's no such thing as a white man. There's no such thing as a black man. If you say that you're white, white means purity. Purity means God. And God means the ruler of the land. So when we begin to talk about us as a people having rights that a citizen is bound to respect, Noble Ali coming, talking to you and me about nationality. What I want to do right now, I want to read something that Noble Ali told to the Moorish Americans when he was here. I want to read something, and I want you to listen real good, because we're talking about citizenship. And it takes a Negro, a colored, and black to hear me. And here I go. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirable and are subject to all inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. That they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to use to be recognized by the government and other nations of the earth. And it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine and national movement, who is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the United States government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing conditions for many generations. You who doubt whether the Prophet Noble Ali and his principles are right for the redemption and salvation of his people, go to those that know law in the city hall and amongst the officials in his government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, because they are glad to see Prophet Noble Ali bring you out of darkness into light. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principle, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a free national government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work. Okay, missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am dependent on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will be learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Support our free national Constitution of the United States of America. Last chapter, verse I read, he said, I love my people, and I desire their unity in mind back to their own free national and divine standards, because day by day, they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of the government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. The last verse. The word Negro is the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored alludes to anything that has been painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy father and thy mother, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said government in which they live. The 14th and the 15th Amendment, both the North and South in unit, placing the Southerner, who were at that time without power of the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional laws that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since the Constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and its citizens. So now we're listening to Noble Ali. He's telling us something that he told us in 1913. See, Noble Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913. And when he came with two flags. See, there's something about this. He came with two flags, but he came with the Moorish flag and the American flag. And when you look at the American flag, see, now you got to understand that those people that's in Morocco today, they got their independence from the mother country. So now they are citizens under another dispensation. So Noble Ali, who was the last prophet in these days and time, came to you and me to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. You know, today was a good day for me. I had Brother JP on the show, and he came and he talked. This brother came and talked about his family, about the businesses that he have, and how this business that he have is conducive to the growth and the development of us as a people. Now, we honor a lot of leaders, but a lot of leaders don't even honor being citizens of this government, and you can't do that as long as you have proclaimed your nationality. Nationality is the order of the day, and Drew Ali told us that we are national and international, conjoining, making us Moorish Americans. Because we are Moorish Americans, because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. We're not Moroccan Americans. We are Moorish Americans. And we're descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now, we talk about Queen Isabella, and we say Morocco got its independence, right? Now, we got independence from who? The Queen of England. So before the Queen of England gave you that authority, who were you? From which you come? What nation did you come from? Are you what your forefathers were and who your forefathers were? No, you're not. So study the prophet and be good Moors and honor the last prophet in these days and time, Prophet Noble Ali. What I want to do right now, I want to recite the Moorish American prayer. I want to recite the Moorish American prayer because this is the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Wade in the water, wade in the water, Muslim, wade in the water. You are done trouble the water.